Welcome to Speakernomics, the official podcast of the National Speakers Association. I am Kenneth Kinney, but friends call me Shark, and like you, I'm a professional speaker and I love listening to Speakernomics. Speakernomics is a professional speaker show that will help you thrive and grow speaking business so you too can change the world, one keynote session, workshop, and speech at a time. And on this episode, well, I was thriving. At least I was walking the halls of NSA's Thrive Winter Workshop Conference and ran into many successful speakers who were thriving and sharing a lot of knowledge with each other. And we're taking on a great topic and looking through the lens of a lucky 7 of them, in fact, to talk about how they're thriving and growing their own speaking business. Now, all my speaking friends, let's say that several months out, we'll use 6 months as the example here. Let's say that you have some gaps in your calendar and you want to add more gigs. What do you do to fill in those gaps, as well as add a little accelerant to what's working? What do you do to continue to thrive and fill a pipeline as a continuously working speaker? Let's dive in then with the perspectives of several speakers, and hopefully some of their insights will help you take a new look on what it takes to thrive in your own speaking business. And let me remind you too that if you're not following their voices on the audio version, then make sure to check out NSA's YouTube channel to watch the video version of the show there. The experts we're showcasing today, all 7 of them in order of appearance, include Tony Chatman, CSP, Sarah Ohanesian, Jeff Bledsoe, Dr. Jeannie Snyder, CSP, Dr. Tom Griggs, Joyce Martyr, and CSP and Hall of Famer Steve Shapiro. And before we jump in, make sure to go to Speakernomics.com. That's where you can find the tips, insights, and knowledge to help you become a better speaker, build a better business, and get paid to speak. So now, let's learn from some special people. And then I'll see you on the other side with some of my own sharp bites, if you will, in a recap. Tony, let's say that 6 months out, you got a month or 2 months or 3 months, and you need to fill with more speaking gigs, whatever it is you want to fill it with. How do you go about starting to fill that pipeline?
Sure. So for me, warm leads are better than cold leads.
Sure.
So the first thing I would do is I have a spreadsheet of all my past clients, those I've had, especially in the last 3 to 5 years. I would immediately start contacting them. With some, it would be, do you have any immediate needs? Some it would be just a tickler to go back and say, hey, remember me. Hey, how's your birthday? This is coming up. The world has changed, and just to be top of mind. I would do that first. And then the second thing is I would go back and I would engage with those I've connected with on LinkedIn. I consider them warmer than a cold call. And so I would start to, as Larry Long said today, actually, I would start making some personalized videos to people that have either commented on my posts or people that I've connected with in the past, just so they get something visual from me. It's not just type. That's probably what I would do.
Sarah, let's pretend, because your calendar is always booked. Always. I don't even have an hour to spare anymore. But let's say that 6 months out, you get a month or 2 months or 3 months or whatever to fill. What are you doing to help fill that void to get yourself booked on more stages and events and all the things?
Well, first I would think about what your goals are. What do you want to be doing really with your business? What's the next season you should be in with your business? And then based on that, I say pick by potential. So how much potential of all the activities that you could do, because we know as speakers, there are so many opportunities in terms of buy this thing, buy this book, try this technique, do this thing. There's no lack of information available to us. So that can be quite overwhelming as well. So think about what is the most impactful thing that you could do next. So pick it based on its potential. And then the other thing I would think about doing is, if you have worked with Mark LeBlanc before, had the honor of hearing Mark LeBlanc, he talks about 1 a day, do 1 activity a day. And I think if we're doing that, hopefully we never get into that trap where we don't have that much going on, but that's a great discipline for us, is to be consistent. And what is that? Whatever 1 activity you pick to do. So that could be reaching out to people, emailing people, calling past clients, but what that 1 thing you're going to do consistently.
Jeff, let's say that you have a pocket in your schedule 6 months out, even a month or 2 or 3 break. What are you doing to pour accelerant on your speaking business to help land more gigs?
Well, first of all, I'm calling customers and asking them what's going on and what needs they have in the marketplace that I might be able to fill when I may be in their area for something else. If I've only got 1 gig in a city, I'll call some of my other customers and see if they need me to fill that in or something I can do for them on their behalf while I'm in town.
JD, you're a busy speaker. Let's say that you have out 6 months out, a month or 2 months or 3 months open that you need to fill to get more speaking gigs. What do you do to put accelerant on that to fill that pipeline?
I will do exactly what I'm going to do tomorrow. At the end of this, I decided to drive this time. And whenever I have drive time, I pack phone calls on that drive time. Some of them are specific. For instance, on Thursday, I drive time. I called a client that asked me to call them. I called a client that after a keynote said, I want to know more about what you do. I'm meeting with both of those this next week because I made the calls. Then I fill in with calls of the touch points, just making sure, like Larry Long said, that they use touching points. And so I have another drive tomorrow, probably longer than I anticipate. Same thing. I've stacked my calendar with calls or people that may not be a specific deal right now, but we're consistently building the relationship. So for me, it's the calls, it's the texts, it's the funny bitmojis.
Tom, so 6 months out, you got a gap in your speaking business. What is the accelerant that you put on to help fill that gap, whatever it is, month, 2 months, 3 months? What is it that you do to start landing more gigs or focusing your business to fill that void?
One thing that I've been working on is going back over with past clients and seeing if they can necessarily bring me in again, but are there other people who they can refer me to? Is one. Second one is my wife is part of Rotary. So sometimes those morning breakfasts or lunch clubs, being a guest, it never helps. It never hurts, excuse me. Chambers of Commerce locally, if you were in person. I love the idea of picking up the phone and email is always great. And I should do more of that. But in person, face-to-face contact is where we as speakers really are strongest. So I think getting in front of people, going to breakfast meetings, Chambers of Commerce, any of that is a very helpful way to get out there and see what people got going on and see if someone else can get you some business.
Joyce, let's pretend that you got some time out, let's say 6 months out of a month or 2 months or 3 months out where you got a void in your calendar. Hard to believe, of course, I know. But what are you going to do to fill that, to land more speaking gigs, get on stages, more consulting, all the things?
Well, I'd be to start with my current clients, people I've spoken for in the past, and check in with them and ask them how they're doing, how things are going for them, how I can be of service, and let them know about any new presentations that I often give webinars, and see if there's anything that I can do for them during those months.
So, Steve, you've been doing this a long time. Let's say that you have a 6 months out, a pocket of a month or 2 or 3 or whatever that you need to fill up with more speaking gigs. What do you do to add accelerant to help you get more gigs on stage?
So the first thing is the more you speak, the more you get speeches. But putting that aside, if I've got nothing going on, my CLM is the most important tool. I don't believe in mass marketing, social media, but other people have had success with it. But for me, the only way I've done it is to reach out to people I've done work with in the past, maybe find a way of creating some value for them, offering them something. So for example, my calendar was pretty dry about a year ago. I had a new book that just had come out. So I wrote people, said, hey, I've got a new book. Would love to send you a nice copy. It's a full color, interior hardcover book. Would love to send you a copy. Within 24 hours, I booked 3 events. So it's like we're so
knowing your customer better.
Or exactly, instead of growing your network, sometimes we need nurturing. And I know that having been doing this for 25 years, like 80 to 90% of my revenue comes from people who have some connection to me from the past. It's not people who like randomly stumble across them. So to me, the fastest way to do it.
Let's do a quick recap then based on their expert advice and talk about how you should fill your own pipeline a few months down the road. Number 1, leverage existing relationships. Almost every speaker emphasized the importance of reaching out to past clients and warm connections. Whether it's through emails, calls, LinkedIn messages, personalized videos, or something else, staying top of mind with people who already know you and trust you is the quickest way to land more gigs or even more referrals. Number 2, consistency and daily outreach. Several speakers mention the power of doing one proactive thing every day to build momentum. Whether it's making calls during drive time, attending networking events, or sending out even something like a book in the mail, is a value add, and that's consistent engagement that leads to more opportunities. Number 3, personalized and direct engagement works best. Mass marketing and social media can help some, but that personal one-on-one interaction is often the most effective way to fill speaking gaps. Instead of just growing your network by numbers, consider helping grow your network by focusing and nurturing it with a little good old customer care to grow the relationships. New customers are great, but strengthening relationships with existing ones can often be much stronger. Even the most booked speakers occasionally need to fill pockets in the calendar. And well, that calendar is out in front of you right now. The seeds you plant today should be ready in about 6 months. So let's start planting and filling your pipeline. It's time to thrive. Friends, make sure to go to Speakernomics.com and let your voice be heard. I'm Kenneth Kinney, your host of the National Speakers Association's podcast, Speakernomics, and this has been another thriving episode of the show. Thank you for the privilege of your time, and remember, Speakernomics is a podcast where you'll learn to speak, get paid, repeat.